So welcome to our video blog. This is the Big Fires Start Small, Sustainable Leadership Energy at In Bulk. So we are now at this time, the In Bulk Festival, and it arrives quite quietly. So we've had one day recently in the past week here in the UK that's felt a bit spring-like. But today, yeah, it's cold, it's damp. Things don't feel very different from winter at all. The earth is still looking very dormant. Mornings remain dark. And as a good farming friend of mine always says, ne'er cast a clout till May is out. Or in other words, do not take your vest off until the blackthorn has flowered. So more poetically, do not rush ahead of the season. Don't assume that you are ready to spring until spring has truly arrived, because this is really a transition time. So I can confirm that my merino thermals are still very much in use. I do work outside a lot. Winter has not finished with us just yet. So in bulk and sustainable leadership energy. Well, we find this a very useful metaphor for leadership, for work, and for personal energy at this time of year. We're really looking at this slow transition that has just started. Nature doesn't switch from one thing to another with a switch on and off. And there's a time when life is stirring beneath the surface, but it really isn't visible just yet. The transition has begun, but we're not yet there. For leaders and professionals, this often mirrors an internal experience. When ideas first come, they're a spark, an inspiration. Then the fire is kindled and begins to form. This may be, for example, a desire for change, a sense that something wants to emerge, a shift in your culture, a new perspective, a new structure. But if we want to be able to produce these changes with strong, resilient energy later in the year, then the inner fire must be started small when it arrives. There is a danger of pushing too soon. Many corporate and professional cultures reward urgency, plans, targets, strategies, goals, and in bulk, that instinct can work against us. Too much pressure too early, too many initiatives, too many expectations or personal demands can overwhelm our energy instead of supporting it. Just as a spark cannot survive heavy logs being put on top, early stage inspiration can't thrive under an excessive load. This is where many leaders experience burnout cycles, pushing through winter without a pause, only to find that their energy will collapse later in the year. I notice, anecdotally perhaps, but that there are an increased number of colds and flus at transition periods in the year. So when we're shifting seasons, see what you notice. Our circadian rhythms are certainly shifting. That means our hormonal balance will be shifting. And in bulk could invite a different response. So first of all, we have to really take time to notice. We have to bring our awareness to the spark. Rather than asking, what should I be doing now? Perhaps in bulk invites a quieter, more powerful question. Perhaps something like, what is beginning to feel alive in me? Where is there a small spark of insight, perhaps some curiosity or renewed motivation? And what perhaps is bringing a new, subtle sense of meaning, perhaps some relief or new alignment? This spark may relate to your leadership style, your team culture, your health, your family, or the way that you personally want to work going forward. It doesn't need to be dramatic or strategic. Small does not mean insignificant. It could mean powerful and viable. Small changes that work and will stick can create way more real change than big ideas which grow too quickly and never really work. If we're going to take this in bulk idea forward, then we must tend our energy and not force the outcome. Instead of adding more fuel in the form of goals, action plans, perhaps consider instead what would gently support your nervous system at this time of year, as everything shifts and repatterns itself to begin the transition into a new season. What would really, truly bring you focus, clarity, and slow growth of capacity? This may include creating intentional pauses in your working day. How about setting a phone alarm? Just a ding reminding you to take 3 deep breaths. How about starting each day with a short, simple breathing? A wonderful practice that has supported me endlessly. You could also use a grounding practice, perhaps in the mornings or perhaps between meetings. How about remembering warmth? Oh, yes, physically, but also emotionally as a form of regulation. You may want to consider your physical health and perhaps simpler meals or slow routines which reduce cognitive and digestive load. Space for some reflection, some journaling, or some quiet thinking is always going to be a top favourite of mine, particularly as we move out of these last days of winter. What can the last days of winter bring us as their gift? Can you afford to give yourself 5 minutes of intentional tending to your inner spark? Once you've identified what your spark is, the question could become, how can I tend this in a consistent way but without bringing pressure? Could I stay with what feels meaningful to me in the year ahead just a little longer to find out what its depth and meaning is before I believe I know what it should be and rush ahead? And what if I could introduce a little bit more time? If I can't do it every day, perhaps I could do it a couple of times a week, or even 3. This is letting leadership energy grow through those 2 magic things we mentioned last newsletter: AI, attention and intention. We can be brave enough to listen in to the intelligence within the body, the intelligence that connects us to Mother Earth, to Gaia, to what she's telling us, because we are seasonal creatures. When we lead in season, we can recognize in bulk, and then we can listen to its teaching that sustainable growth honors quiet beginnings, slow transitions, and timing. This is the time to listen more closely to what you want your leadership, energy, creative, and resilience to be. And if you want it to be strong by late spring and summer, how can we nurture it now? Well, you could start with the free Indigo Brave Firelight Circle. Join our space for thoughtful leaders and professionals. They are particularly focused on people in senior roles who want to work with their energy rather than against it, including seasonal wisdom, embodied practices, and shared reflections. We can explore sustainable ways of leading, creating, and truly navigating change. So if you're ready to nurture your spark a little more gently now, knowing that it could turn into a wonderfully warm fire full of passion and growth, you are very, very warmly invited to join us. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.